to like, but that both has the ability and is into improving themselves. Because it's really boring just to be like, oh, this is how you breathe, this is how you hit the right note.
The tongue, tip of the teeth.
Yes, like that kind of like dot your T's, cross your eyes, cross your T's, dot your eyes type stuff.
By the time you try to remember all that, you can't even put any effort into the song because it's
and they're really trying to like hold you down with all this. Oh, it has to be this way, as opposed to like, what way do you want to sing?
What do you think, Rick? He's my biggest fan, even when I'm. That was terrible.
Well, he dragged himself. He let you drag him all the way to this. I'm assuming you're not into voice at all, Rich?
No, I'm not voice. I'm just a beat guy.
You're a beat guy. You're a beat guy.
He's not totally toned up. He can carry a tune, but go on. I'm sorry.
You're vocalist.
It's like, this woman.
He can sing if he needs to. He can sing.
Yeah, anybody can really sing. Honestly, it's not about being born with the ability to sing. It's about what you're willing to put in. There are people that are born with more ability than others in terms of they start off further forward. Like some people are born, they're just naturally more muscular than other people.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you can't, like, that means that someone, okay, just because you're born skinny doesn't mean you can't become muscular. So that's something that I think like more people really need to consider. When it comes to your vocal health, hey Chloe, when it comes to your vocal health in general, I'm trying to arrange on the a meetup for going to get stroboscopies at the GBMC. Have you heard of stroboscopy?
Is it like the graphic, is it, because I'm setting wrong.
So there's a graph thing, and you're probably thinking of electroglottograph, and that measures the activity of your vocal folds, whether they're apart or together. It gives out a little signal, and that can be used to read some things about your voice. But what I am thinking of is, let me show you a video of it. Let me do it on my phone so I'm not out here. Feel free to start asking questions, y'all. I'm here. Let's see if anybody's asking questions. Yeah. Voice text chat. Oh yeah, and y'all can tune in next time. Like I definitely love having people here. Well, I didn't click as much stuff because like the in-person, like most people are mostly online. It's also in person, but people keep coming in person. I'll start having like more food and stuff available. Okay, so let me pull up the video of a stroboscopy so you can see what that's like. This is something you can get for $15 at GBMC once a month. It really is such a useful tool to, like, you're not guessing what's happening with your voice. You can actually see it. It's kind of like
young female vocal cords during a stroboscopic exam.
She sings too.
tells the vocal folds in motion. Hey, y'all, feel free to ask questions inside of voice text chat. We're looking at stroboscopes right now. I'm arranging a field trip.
That even sounds like Vita.
Well, thanks for coming anyways, Anime Freak. We're glad to have you.
I've never.
Are you here for the office hours?
Yes.
That's me. Let me get you a chair.
That is very fascinating.
Right now we're looking at video of the Scinguistics, which allows you to look at your vocal cords with the camera. Okay. It even flashes the strobe light so you can really see every single motion. That's Latoya and this is Rich.
Okay.
How'd you hear about this? Through the meetup?
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. I specifically wanted black people coming too. The star's looking out for me. Did you want to see the footage of the stroboscope? There's an even cooler video that I was going to show you. And this is a field trip that I eventually want to plan for us. Is we'll go out to GBMC, and they only have like usually 4 slots a month, but whoever needs their vocal cords looked at the most can get them looked at, and the rest of us can watch as the vocal folds get looked at, and they tell you.
I definitely want to.
I had one done myself. It's a little bit weird at first, but you get used to it. Oh, is vocal fry characterized by a higher speed quotient? Or am I wrong? What do you think about using fry to help increase CQ? How does it compare to glottal strikes? For me, it's like different strokes, different folks. By the way, I got water and ginger beer, non-alcoholic. If you want that, and I also have alcohol if you want alcohol, and water if none of those do it for you. No. Let me open that up. So let me answer your question. So it's different strokes for different folks when it comes to glottal strikes versus closed quotient. I just find that using M0, which a lot of people call the Fry register, and they use that at first, but then they try to drag that into what they want to have a higher closed quotient. So for reference, for those of you that don't necessarily know what vocal fry is, vocal fry in this context is this kind of sound. So it can be like a Kim Kardashian, and that's like a different. It's the same thing, but like different version. Feel free to use the adapter from the keyboard if you.
I tried, but it needs more power.
Oh, it needs more. Oh, okay, it's not enough power. Okay, so vocal fry can be used the way Kim Kardashian does that, but also can be used to hit like super bassy low notes like that. So a person on YouTube was asking right now if that can be used to help you get like a more dense, heavy sound in your regular voice. So that involves increasing what's called the closed quotient, which is like how much your vocal folds stay together when they're vibrating. When they stay together more, you get a more solid sound like this, a heavier sound as opposed to when they're not as together. You get a looser sound like this, and it's not as heavy. So that is what I'm answering the question about right now. So I'd say I prefer glottal strikes, which is the kind of noise if you're trying to get like a thicker, heavier, tight sound or try to be less breathy. I prefer using that as a drill because with M0 to M1, that passaggio, when your voice changes that, like it can be kind of like a reset. So you reconfigure all the things that you were doing, and that might not necessarily be something you have control over. And it'll maybe just like negate itself by the time you drag that into M1 where you want the sound. So I prefer glottal strikes to start out with. What is the best way to tone down your vibrato? Your vibrato is quite fast and you're looking to slow it down. So the best way to change vibrato in any ways, and if y'all have like particular vocal questions, feel free to chime in. I'm just like answering questions in the order that I receive them. And oh yeah, I already have water, good. So like the people in person, y'all get priority. I don't want you to think I'm just gonna like be burning the computer the entire time. So the best way to control vibrato, I think because it's like a controlled loss of control, it's like a reflex rather than if you're doing vibrato correctly. For those of you who don't know, vibrato is like the difference between like and so the difference between those is like my larynx is tilting up and down really quickly. If y'all want to like do interactive, y'all can feel it. Or if you can't do vibrato, if either you can't do vibrato, by all means feel free to versus You gonna feel on mine? You can give yourself vibrato with your finger, and that is the way I sort of like to retrain vibrato, which is sort of getting to the answer that was going to give Big Halo fan, is that you sort of have to relearn it from scratch because it's like relearning what's a basic instinct. It's like relearning the way you scream when someone jumps behind a door and like surprises you or something. It's like you can't control that actively. You sort of have to like, okay, this is the new way that I scream, so I'm gonna drill that over and over, and this is gonna replace the way I did it previously. Once you sort of deconstruct that, control, loss of control. I think I stole that from somebody. Like I'm not sure if I coined that. Maybe I did, but I think it's probably, if I had to guess, it's Joyce DiDonato, operatic soprano that's doing a master class. I think they called it a controlled loss of control. So because you're losing control, you can't necessarily do what happens when you lose control. Like there's certain things you can do on autopilot, like breathe. Like you breathe a certain way. That's probably even a better example. And everybody just like breathes back and forth without thinking about it until I say, you breathe and you can control that. And people remember, oh, I can control the way I breathe. So if you want to like breathe, if you normally like a mouth breather and you get like dry lips, like my big fat dry lips, you might want to like relearn and be more of a nose breather. But that's not something you can just like, I'm going to just work that in. You kind of have to drill that and do that over and over until that becomes your new way of doing it.
Is it the same in reverse if you want to speed up your vibrato?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
The same? Okay.
So whatever attributes you want your vibrato to have, you can take like your two fingers and go like and you can do them with the speed and the amplitude that you want them to have. And once you, I think, break it down and reconstruct it one time, every time after that becomes easier in terms of what kind of vibrato do I want. Another thing, bring M1 with. Okay, so I'm gonna get to your question in 1 second, Chloe. So another thing that pull this video up for a second when we get like a lull in between questions. So if y'all want to pass on my phone and look at it now, there is a video of another stroboscopy that actually talks about it with singing techniques and stuff. So that is something y'all can see as well, because that shows you the voice doing actual different things versus just like normal noises like the woman was making in the first stroboscopy. So, what was I gonna say? Joyce D. Donato. Yeah, Chloe, that's probably right. So you want to take your fingers for changing your vibrato and move them at the speed that you want your new vibrato to be at. So like listen to different examples of different singers, and that'll hopefully help you customize how you move your vibrato. So it's like if I hear a vibrato that I really like, it goes like that's a little bit slower than my normal vibrato. So I go like and really copy it from there, as opposed to like a faster one. And you want to practice syncing up your fingers with that, and then you find like a nice groove. Usually it's below where you feel your laryngeal prominence or Adam's apple, where your the bump on your larynx starts to push out a little bit. My sweet spot, I think, is a little bit above mine because I barely have an Adam's apple, but people that actually have puberty, y'all can like push below the Adam's apple, I think, in most cases, and you sort of just tweak the finger slightly. And I'm not like doing that vibrato on purpose at all. And if any of you have ever had like physical therapy, it's similar to, or like know anything about physical therapy, it's something similar to what they call range of motion exercises, where if you see like the old people in the bed and they like put their arms like that and put their legs and move them back and forth, it sort of teaches those parts of the body how they should move. And oh, you have a question?
Like, what about like just saying certain things constantly, like and moo and all that stuff like that?
A lot of people use those sounds like, I feel like for a lot of things they don't necessarily do, because those are just like letters and natural sounds in the English language. And I find oftentimes with using like, okay, you have to do your scale of ma, me, mo, moo, or something like that. There's other ways to do those that are more like direct to the point. Like the reason why a lot of people might give like guh or gay, like they have a drill that they call it like, this is the gay anthem, go, 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 gay, 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 gay. And like they use that to usually make the voice more solid and tight. And we're actually talking about that, I think, a little bit before you came in here. And those G's, those hard percussive G's, can help make your oh my god, Nick. Those hard G's can make your voice a little bit more dense. Go, 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 get, if you do this really hard. I find yeah. So that's another one. I'll get to what that does in a second. So yeah, so those are things that people do, but I feel like there's more efficient ways to do what those drills try to do. So yeah. Huh? Roger Love. Is he local or?
Michael Jackson.
Roger Love. Let me look him up. That name is sounding like familiar. Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, he might have a specific reason for doing them, but anything that those drills where you're saying like certain words or syllables can do, I find that making certain noises can do even better. So say you're trying to like. A reason why I might give like go 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 get when somebody might get the drill G drill is because they their vocal folds aren't tight enough together, so their voice is kind of like soft and breathy, and they want their voice to be like that. They want like a more commanding voice. So that's where you would do the go 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 go. But what I find is more helpful than that is doing what's called a glottal strike, and that's almost like a monkey noise. It's like ooh ooh ah ah ooh ooh ah ah. Yeah, and doing that will get your voice like more soft. Yeah, it gets your voice more solid than the G's, and then the ends, the na 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 na, whatever the N's and M's or ma. N's and M's are nasal consonants. try to pitch your nose and say the letter N. So it sounds like you're saying ed instead of N because the N needs the nose in order to function. So if you're not putting air through your nose, you can't say N or M. So you usually use N or M to try to be, yeah. Yeah, you can't say N, you can't say M with your nose. Yeah, like if you try to say like mom, it sounds like Bob or Bob. Yeah.
Give a cold.
Mom. And it doesn't sound like Bob no matter what I do. But if I say Bob, I can say the letters Bob because those don't involve my nose.
Right.
So
the one I used to like was the one that's like, ooh.
That's a siren.
I like it. Ooh.
Yeah, those are probably my favorite warm-ups. I like those better than like
yoga.
the
It's vocal yoga.
yeah. Those are way better than the because those like la 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 la. Like if you do a bunch of those drills, you're counting every note as you go upward, and you kind of get used to that drill, and you're like, oh crap, I'm hitting the hard note, and I'm gonna strain and panic. But if you just slide around, it's so much more relaxed, and you're not trying to hit these exact note targets. So, Chloe, I'll get to your questions, YouTube, in a second. I'm sorry, bear with me. Yeah, I know I'm doing stuff IRL as well. Okay, so. The drill that I would give instead of like ma is what I call the Charlie Brown adult. So you ever listen to Charlie Brown like so that's usually that's like a completely nasal sound. So feel underneath your nose, you go yeah, but you don't feel as much. You feel air coming out your nose. Now put your fingers in front of your mouth and you do no air coming out. You don't feel anything on your fingers, right? Now go wah 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 wah. Yeah, now you feel air because the Charlie Brown sound is a completely nasalized sound, and nasality can be good for voice. A lot of people think nasality is this, and this isn't nasal. I won't talk about that right now because that's a whole other side. But this has nothing to do with your nose. That really like nerdy sound that people call nasal. It's not nasal. And nasality is actually kind of good to get like a thicker sound on your voice. Yep. Come to the second floor. I'm buzzing you in now. Did y'all know each other before, or did I get your name? Sorry. Sheldon. Yeah. Thank you. Definitely get your answer. Like, ask as many questions. Like, probably keep the door where so I don't have to walk.
Fluency. I've been practicing on my own with Roger Love. We be having shows. I be listening.
Yeah, it's definitely.
You a singer?
Yeah. Like if I rest for too long, he hears about it. My husband is like, oh my gosh, I can't hit that note.
I guess they took the elevator.
Where was? I didn't even see. Did you see the elevator? Oh.
Yeah, this is what like.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're singers.
Hopefully that keeps it wedged open.
This is for my husband because he might be going home going wah 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 wah. I paid mine online. So. Thank you.
I'm probably gonna like lower it as these keep going because I just want to get an idea of like the head count. But if you guys like want more refreshments and everything, they'll definitely go to that as well. And also influence. Influencing people with your voice. Here for the voice stuff. Let me pull up more chairs. Yeah, leave that practice. Nice to meet y'all. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, hi, grab a seat. Y'all can sit here. Y'all can also sit on the couches if you want to ask questions from there. We'll bring over one more chair. Wow, I don't know why I do up like this week. I've been like announcing it for a little bit.
Well, I'm John. I signed up. This is Tracy.
Hey.
Hi. Nice to meet you both. I'm Charles.
Charles, nice to meet you.
And John, right? Tracy and John.
Anywhere I can plug my phone in?
Oh, yeah. There's a strip over here. And if you have a USB cable, you can plug into my laptop.
Okay, I don't want to drain it.
No, my laptop's charging.
Okay.
So answering questions right now. question about vocal influences. Influencing people with your voice, I think, is all about, not all about, but a lot of it is about phrasing. So how you deliver a particular line and like emphasizing the words that are most important in that line is one way to really convey emotion. And another way is to change. I actually did like one of my favorite people that talks about voice. Her name is Donna Sotomayor-Martini. She talks about the more changes your voice experiences to a certain limit, because if you change your voice too much, it just sounds crazy. The more changes your voice goes through in terms of the color of your voice, the more people can like perceive emotion.
In a given song?
Yeah, in a given song. So if I sing sort of like the same way, let me just pick something basic. So if I should say I would only be in your way. So like that's pretty like staying uniform. Like there's some like emotional content in there. But if I change the texture of it, even if I'm not even thinking about how I'm changing the texture, I change the texture of it as I go through, it makes it more emotionally intense. So if I should stay, I would only be like, and I like that sounds like I'm feeling it a lot more than before. All I'm doing is like raising my larynx up and down. Only be. That's just me dropping my larynx down. So the more you do little things like that, the more emotional intensity you can sort of bring to an influence and make people feel you. Okay, so some questions from the internet as well, and y'all feel free to ask questions about voice stuff as well. Let me know if you want like water. I also have ginger beer, non-alcoholic, but I have alcoholic stuff that I can figure out if you guys want alcohol. So yeah, let me know anytime if you want anything. So sorry for taking so long to get to some of the YouTube questions. Whenever I try to bring my M1 down to anything below A2, I instinctively force my larynx down too much, and that sounds horrible. How do you go about fixing that? So if you're familiar, so M1 is what a lot of people call chest voice or modal voice. It's what people talk with. So you can sing with that same kind of voice. And there's other kinds of voices as well. So like M2, so M1 is what we talk with. M2, a lot of people will call that falsetto or head voice. So most people don't talk with that. So they're asking about when they go below A2. So A2 is where grave begins, and that's like the sort of baritone, bassy extension of voice that I'm not that good at. And when you go down there, sometimes some people have a tendency to really lower their larynx as well when they go down. So this is me with the low larynx versus me with the regular larynx. So if you have a problem with doing that and your like low notes might sound over dramatic if you do that, I'd say do the big dog, little dog, if you know about that. Ask someone on the server if you don't already know, and you can shift your larynx up and go outright onto a note that's like A2 or below. So big dog, little dog is like when you pant and you change your larynx height while you pant. So changing your larynx height changes the sound of the panting. So think of like panting like a dog. It's like, this is like interactive. Y'all can feel my larynx do it if you want. So do any of you want to feel, or I can stand over in the middle of y'all if you want to feel. Come on, it's interactive. Get money's worth. So okay. So my larynx is neutral right now. I'm gonna slide it low. I can change the pitch as you're talking. You feel how the larynx is low. And I'm sliding it back up. Now you feel how it slides high. And now I'm gonna do vibrato, and you can feel how it like moves back and forth a little bit.
You can see from here, like
feeling is believing. How you, Sheldon? Don't be shy. It's interactive. Sorry, keep on you. Yeah, right. Yeah, so I'm thinking of a picture like this. Okay, so I'm changing my larynx height. So this is the regular neutral larynx height that I talk about. No, this is me sliding my larynx lower. So I'm gonna just hold one note and change my larynx height. Do you feel that little slide? So that's the position of your larynx changing. So the way in which you can change that, if you don't naturally know how to do that, is what I call big dog, little dog. It's a very useful tool for transgender people that are trying to either like sound more masculine or more feminine. Changing your larynx height can influence the masculinity or femininity of your voice, or the like the lightness and brightness, or the darkness and fullness of your voice. So the way it works is like you pant like a regular dog. So, and then you turn that dog into like a big old Saint Bernard that has had too many kibbles and bits. So, and then you shift that up to like a Chihuahua. And then you try to talk, and you'll naturally have a high larynx if you keep it in that same position as it was when it was a Chihuahua. And now you hear that I sound like super effeminate with my larynx being super high. So I would try big dog, little dog, straight into a low note because it can be done on lower notes. I got, let's see, I'm gonna try. Okay, so this is M0 with a higher larynx. Okay, so try that. What tips do you have for breaking down how someone is singing certain vowels modes? My natural pronunciation of sounds is different than the style I hear in metal anime songs, so it's hard to mimic. I wouldn't necessarily mimic the vowels and pronunciation that somebody uses because I feel like that's almost like a tertiary level of like what makes their voice good. Someone's accent or language isn't really what makes them good. It's their vocal technique. So you can sound good in Spanish, you can sound good in Japanese, you can sound good in Hebrew. But you don't necessarily have to abide by a certain pronunciation to get that. If you really like the stylized way in which people pronounce stuff, you can go for that. Like, I don't know if any of y'all listen to like punk music or SZA or people, there's a lot of styles out there where people will adopt accents that they don't naturally have, like how the Beatles sounded American. People tend to put on different accents when they sing, or like Amy Winehouse. Huh?
Green Day.
Green Day, yeah.
And country singers, like some of them.
Yeah, they don't sound that country.
Like Philly. Like,
Right. Like Keith Urban, and who else? There's a Canadian one. It's a Canadian country singer. Shania Twain. Yeah. So like none of them had those accents in real life. They liked what they imbued in their singing. So if you find that that's what you like, break it down like vowel by vowel. Like break down what vowel you say and what vowel they tend to switch out for that in that place. So I would take notes and like make like a little log of like these are the rules of how to have this accent. And how would I go about if someone's using different modes? Modes, if you mean by mode CVT, I don't quite use those because they don't I think itemize every single thing that you can change about your voice. They make everything like a package deal. Like I can have a high larynx and twang and vocal fry and all these things. I can do them all at the same time, but that doesn't mean that I can't pick one of them and do them separately. So I don't really work with modes, sorry. I would practice if you're interested in like changing the accent, I would practice the accent by itself before you go into singing with it. So you really are aware of how you're doing it. You don't default into whatever your natural singing accent is. Could potentially any vocal coach teach any style? To a certain extent, yes. You can teach stuff that's like range should be good to have no matter what style you're in. Being on keys should be good no matter what style you're in. But beyond rudimentary stuff like that, it helps to have a familiarity with the style. Not necessarily be like, I am a country vocal coach, but like I could teach somebody theoretically that wanted to know country because I could understand the linguistics of how a country accent works. Like half of my family is from the South, and I get how vocally what country singers do. Like you could be yodeling, or it could be, especially male country singers. Yeah, I need like a phrase to yodel.
Feel my lyrics.
that one isn't as good for yodeling. Let me play a clip of an actual yodel, because yodeling I think is also about the sounds you have. The basic engine of a yodel is the break. So switching from M1 to M2 or chest to head. So I can do that back and forth, but it doesn't sound really cool until you have good, cool syllables to say it on. So Jewel has, in fact, I think yodeling is called yodeling because that's one of the most common. So ole, 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 ole. So I guess if that's good enough. But if you want like really full out yodeling, I would need like syllables, like a set of syllables that's like, this sounds like a yodel. So it's just like really breaking between M1 and M2 very loudly and overtly as much as possible. It's a possible problem that I can see the tip of. When raising your larynx for trans voice. Okay, if you can see the tip of your epiglottis, I don't think it necessarily is, because the epiglottis is what keeps you from choking when you swallow stuff. And if you bend your epiglottis over with the back of your tongue, you can push it back with the back of your tongue, and it bends over your vocal folds. That gives you a sound that sounds sort of like Kermit the Frog. It really, like, do you hear how this sound is kind of muffled? And it sounds like my voice is like behind a really thick wall almost inside my throat. So that is called Knödel, which is a kind of German Jewish potato dumpling. It sounds like you have a potato dumpling stuck in your throat. And that's like Christina Aguilera. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. You can use it like stylistically as well. Like it doesn't have like some country singers will use it. So like you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. So like you do it like really thick. Shakira, I think is one of like the thickest Knödel users. Like I want tonight and I am still alive. And she also does some yodeling as well. She might as well be a country singer. And Christina Aguilera, I think, is like an example. I think sometimes she overdoes it, but I think sometimes she has like a good balance of it.
I think she thinks it makes her sound a certain way.
That doesn't necessarily make her.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's not how it actually sounds. Like she thinks she sounds some way using it. But I think some might actually be that Whitney Houston uses it, but a lot, like she's probably one of the most tasteful users of it. Because like in the beginning of like, and I will always love you. Let's do like a little field trip and listen to Whitney Houston. Always love you. Because she doesn't do it normally, but when she wants to get intense, she dials it up.
Hey Dad, so are you really cool? I thought all the fun.
Mute. Okay, wait for that ad to end. So during the intros to like her songs, she's kind of gentle with it. While I wait for commercials to finish, let me look at another thing. So no, it's not problematic. If you can see the tip of your epiglottis. I struggle with too much nasality, and it's because I need to breathe through the nose. So I'm singing, breathing through your nose is nasality. So double check just to make sure your definition of nasality isn't twang. Like if you think like, oh, my voice is so nasal, that's not nasal, that's twang. So make sure you understand nasality before you like try to correct something that might not be wrong. How can I improve my M1? Some people told me to sing like I was talking to not stress my throat, but I stress my throat even when I'm talking. Understanding what like stressing your throat means would help a little bit more. Like how can you improve your M1? I think nothing to it but to do it. Like use it a lot and you'll build up the musculature to do it. If you mean M1 for belting, approaching singing is not some magical thing that you can't do even if you have a talking voice. If you have a voice that can talk healthily, you can sing decently with the proper training. So approaching is not just like this big thing. It's like, well, M1's what I use when I talk, but it's different when it's still the same. Your vocal folds are still in the same position as you talk as they are when you sing. M1 is chest voice, or what people talk in. So people will be like head and chest. And that works for some people, but for me, that doesn't quite work because I don't feel my chest in my chest. I don't feel my head in my head. But I know what it is because I know what my vocal cords are doing when I'm doing those things. And the easiest way for me to tell those apart is what I call the yodel pop test. And if I'm wondering whether or not I'm in M1 or chest, is I can go like, I can yodel up if I'm in M1 because that's the sound of M1 breaking into M2. If I can make that noise, then I'm in M1. So if I'm like doing something really, really light that doesn't sound as heavy as regular chest, I can still pop it and it turns into M2. And that burst of air lets me know I can do this forcible change into M2. And that lets me know that that was M1 that I was changing from. Yeah. Okay, so let me give you some. Like her voice is like nice and crystalline and pure. So I go. But then as you get to the climax. Like I'm supposed to love you. like, nah, that's the back of the tongue thing that we're talking about with the epiglottis.
Avoiding some of that more timbre sounding or like gravelly sounding versus the more warmer sounding
Well, how those, yeah.
From that fold over you're saying?
Yeah, from the fold over, I think that just makes it sound thicker. A lot of people think like it sounds thicker. Whenever you position something in your vocal tract, that like it catches the sound. So you're placing your epiglottis, which keeps you from like breathing in your food, and the back of your tongue, which like everybody knows what tongue is. When you push those things up so they're covering the vocal tract partially, it gives a thicker sound as it absorbs some of the vibration from your vocal folds. So this like sounds a lot thicker than love you. Like that doesn't sound as, the second one doesn't sound as thick as the first one. At least would you guys agree? Yeah. So yeah, that's something that people do, I think, instinctively sometimes to thicken, and Christina Aguilera does it all the time.
Hamburger throat.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. The new name, y'all. The new name for Canodal is hamburger throat. Spread the word. Okay. Y'all heard it here first. Okay, so Nick asks, Charles, when conditioning the voice for high belt, we aim to reach vocal fatigue to ensure that we're promoting the strength of a vocal musculature. How do we ensure that along the way to fatigue, we don't encounter inflammation, which is a danger at such high ranges? I don't think like any slight bit of inflammation is like, oh, death sentence, but it means a longer recovery time when your vocal folds get irritated. So I'd say like check in with yourself, make sure you're not clamping your vocal folds too much, make sure it doesn't feel uncomfortable, because like feeling exhausting. So belting is like this, like musical shouting, which is M1, and because it's M1 or chest voice, you can break it into M2, put that test note. So this, so the way it pops, that lets you know that that's M1. So it's the same thing that you
drop down and went up there.
Yeah, it's changing in pitch, but I can also keep it on the same pitch and just break. So this, so same pitch both times. So this, so the pitch stayed the same. I just changed the mechanism I was using with vocal cords. So one thing you can do is make sure you're not doing anything that is uncomfortable while you're belting, and just like isolating that feeling is like, okay, all I'm feeling is fatigue. You shouldn't feel like an itch or a scratch or a sudden like jolt in your throat or an urge to cough. So those things you want to watch out for. Make sure you're not excessively compressing your vocal folds, which can lead to that. The other thing is diet. So make sure that you're not dry before you go to do something intensive with your voice. So make sure you get some like nice lubrication on your vocal folds, and be aware of anything that you might do that dries them out. Like smoking is a no-no. Drinking too much hard liquor is a no-no. Sorry, am I calling you out?
Because when I have
so yeah, those are all things to watch out for. You want to feel sugar. So having too much sugar without water can dry you out, because it can make you salivate a bunch, and if you don't have anything to wash that down, it dries you out.
For me, caffeine is the
yeah, it'll mess you up. It'll mess you up real quick.
Dirty.
Dirt.
What are you left with now? Is it water?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tea you can have. And it's not that you can't have sugar. You just don't want to like have high sugar without water. How can I improve my M1? No, I already answered that. I want to improve my voice. Kenzie says, I want to improve my voice or just see where it's at because I'm completely clueless. I'm super shy to share my voice with others to get opinions. Make a recording of your voice, send it to somebody you trust, and that way you don't have to listen, you don't have to watch them listen to your voice. Like ask them for feedback when they're not like, you're not there having them hear your voice. Because like if I always say as a teacher, if I can't hear you, I can't help you. You're welcome for the explanation. IYBKYD. And listen. Oh, thank you, Chloe. Okay. Roger thinks says when I said stress, I meant strain. The feeling of contracting, and when it's reality, it's not that sensitive. Through your nose. Okay, so super over nasal singing happens, but I find it's very rare, especially in M1. There's a lot of voices that I like that are pretty hyper nasal. I can't think of one that like most people would know. She's somewhat nasal, but she's also very twangy. Yeah, she's also very twangy. So that's she has a lot of that in her voices. In her Jerry Lewis. I mean, I'm not Jerry Lewis.
The comedian. He be playing his voice like.
Skip. Let me know when. Is he gonna talk? Boy, if you don't talk. I'm trying to find like.
Oh yeah.
Fran Drescher. She's like that sound like she. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember. I'll look for it.
Oh, here it is. Now this team have a collective experience. It was a super relationship.
That's Jerry Lewis talking.
I really.
It's not particularly like nasal to me. A voice that I think of as like this is definitely nasal is
when he's laughing, when Jerry Lewis laughs.
And when he's doing those skits and everything, and he's like, ah.
Okay, what skit has he done? What's the skit? Okay, because like the only one I can find. Okay, workout sketch maybe.
But I wanted to build up my body like those.
That's right. That's twang. So and it's kind of very Urkel or SpongeBob sound. And that's twang. That's nothing to do with my nose and everything to do with the squeezing of something called the area epiglottic sphincter. You don't have to know that in your throat. So this creates a different sound. And if I'm really nasal, this is a very nasal sound.
Tony Braxton.
Tony Braxton.
She kind of like.
Oh, she mumbles.
She talks like that.
Yeah, you can mumble, and that's not the same. Like singing like that, it's like mumbling. It's not necessarily very nasal. But people will confuse nasal with mumbling because when you're very nasal, it's hard to understand what you're saying because all the airflow is going out my nose, and less of the airflow goes through my mouth. And eventually, when you become 100% nasal, you get that Charlie Brown adult sound. So, and you can't make vowels and consonants. All you can do is make a W.
The rap is mumble rappers.
Yeah, so they're not necessarily nasal. They just don't articulate as much. So I can be like not nasal, and I can I can say let me something. And like I'm just not saying everything all the way. So there's a difference between that and like I'm going to be very clear in how I articulate, but nasal. Don't be afraid of going darker. You can erase if needed. So like you can tell I'm trying to articulate, but it gets lost because I'm being very nasal. So someone who has a form. How do you fix that? It's harder. Like it's very hard to teach people don't do this. It's easier to teach people do this. Yeah. So it's like you just gotta stop doing that. Or you can learn how to be hyponasal. So like pitch off your nose, and they'll often discourage you from trying to redirect airflow through your nose. But it's very rare that I've had to have somebody that has a lot of nasality. So oh my God, Krampus, I hate you. Huh? Diaphragmatic breathing. So that's a helpful thing, but a lot of people be like, the diaphragm is the source of all voice. It's really like I won't ask your age, but like you've been 48. Oh, you don't mind giving it because you're fine. But like you've been breathing for 48 years. No one needs to really tell you how to breathe. A lot of singing teachers will be like, well, you got to use the diaphragm. You've been using your diaphragm for 48 years. It's like, it's not that complicated. It's not rocket science. People act like you're breathing wrong. It's like, I've been breathing. I go tell them I'm breathing wrong. I've been breathing all my life. Like it's very rare sometimes, but I'm not very rare, but sometimes you'll get people that when they sing, they get nervous. So they kind of like forget how to breathe. Like when people get nervous enough, they forget their own name, but like you know how to breathe. You just remember how to do that while you're singing. So it's more about that than like the diaphragm will unlock every single part of the voice because there's just so much happening in the voice. There's your nose, there's your lips, there's your tongue, there's your vocal folds, and there's all kinds of organs in the vocal tract that people don't even realize. You have false vocal folds that also can vibrate and make noises as well. Like when you're doing something really gritty and like like that. That's when the false vocal folds are going at the same time. There's the epiglottis that keeps you from swallowing food down your air tube, but it also can participate in coloring the sound of your vocal tract. So there's so many things that aren't the diaphragm that need to be known for singing. I don't like to spend that much time talking about the diaphragm. It's so boring. There's so many other things that your voice can do that are so cool besides breathe.
I did think that there was something about it. What's the so the tremolo of the voice? What do you call it when it
tremolo? Yeah.
What's the correct word for that with regard to voice? Is it tremolo?
Tremolo. Yeah. Tremolo.
Tremolo. So is it not possible to control tremolo with diaphragm, or do you only use?
Yeah. Tremolo you control with diaphragm. So if y'all want to, if we can do a show and tell and y'all can feel my diaphragm bouncing back and forth. A lot of people will call it like diaphragmatic vibrato, or they'll try to use it when they're trying to do vibrato, which you should not. Only your larynx should be articulating a vibrato. Because you're changing the pitch. When you're changing the amplitude of your voice, which is tremolo, like your diaphragm is pumping.
And the two can almost seem the same.
Yeah. Tremolo can be used to sound like vibrato, and vibrato can be slowed down to sound like tremolo. But I feel like that's not the optimal use of these things, because vibrato can go really fast and have this polished sound to it that tremolo doesn't naturally have. And vibrato you can do on autopilot, while tremolo you have to think about every single pulse. Like I have to think pulse. But when I vibrato, I'm not thinking la la la. I'm not thinking up down. I'm thinking just like shiver. Like if you ever like shook your knee like that when you're nervous or you have to go to the bathroom, I'm not thinking up down. I'm just thinking tremor, and I just turn on the tremor or I turn off the tremor. So vibrato is similar. And
on a slow charge, I think.
Oh yeah. There's a strip over there. Feel free to move the chair over or something. So tremolo is best used, I feel like, for intimate, more heartfelt context. Like what's the song that's like heartfelt? I find it kind of funny, find it kind of sad. Like that it almost seems like I'm heaving, like I'm wheezing slightly inside of myself. So that tremolo is great for there, and it might be kind of like too polished, like find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. Like that, I feel like that's like more polished than what I necessarily want to do. That I like tremolo better on that line. So rather than trying to have them sound like each other, I think they each have strengths that you can capitalize on if you use them for what they're good at. Tremolo is good to do kind of like slow and almost performatively to really communicate an emotion, while vibrato is good to be like, look at what I can do, like very like I'm super polished. Look at me dominate this note. It's like I might use that like on Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You belt, like oh, you thought I was down? You think it was like enough that I hit that note? Oh no, I'm gonna put vibrato on it now too. What now? And that I think is good for a separate context that tremolo would not work nearly as well on.
But I can't imagine trying to do that with tremolo. That'd be like the end. That better be
close. It's very extra. It's very extra. It's work, and I don't think it's worth the work. Yeah. Yeah. That's all tennis, because they're the only class in opera I feel like actually bounce. Okay, so this is what is her name?
Selling out Deadpool.
Of course I am, little girl.
New Devour Grilled
Sorry,
cheese
y'all.
sandwiches.
Okay, we have more questions. Could you tell me a bit about the singer's sound? It's created.
This is the moment when the gods expect me to
IYBKYD. I'm not sure who you're talking about.
But I won't
Neo Liu. Okay, I'll look at that in a second. Can you send the link timestamped with what you want? So timestamp the link and send that so I don't have to scrub around. Okay, so this singer's nasal.
And I want to lie down, roll over and
die. Roll over and die. Yeah, Barbara trying to say it could be a little bit nasal something.
To do is put my longing to one side. Tell myself that love.
He has almost like this like regal dark quality to it. I think of it as like regal and dark. All I have to do is forget how much I love him. Like that kind of that sound. It's putting nasality on a bunch of different things. Ordering before, it's like how to figure out nasality and whether you want to add more nasality. A good way to find nasality is to do. Have you ever watched Charlie Brown, any of those Charlie Brown specials, and you hear how the adults go along? If you do that, put your hands in front of your mouth and make that Charlie Brown adult sound. Don't feel anything, right? Now just say wah 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 wah. Now you feel air when you say wah 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 wah, because air is going out through your mouth. When you do the Charlie Brown adult sound normally, all the air goes through your nose. So if you want to find out what like 100% nasality is like, do the Charlie Brown adult sound, and determine like whether or not you want more or less of that. Because sometimes people are hyponasal. Okay, yeah, send it on the Discord. Thank you. Is it there? Hamburger throat. Bringing it one higher. Oh, I'm sorry, Chloe. Okay, people are my DMs. Okay. Okay, I'm not particularly sure what specifically that is asking about. Asking. Yeah, okay, he's popping into M2. Yeah, that's a pop into M2, but he's not doing a break. He's almost doing what I call like a micro H, and that, or not what I call, what is called a micro H, and that will sort of mask that change over the yodel. You can go like and I can mask it by putting like H's as I switch from M1 to M2. You don't hear that switch. And if I make that H really small, it just sounds like my voice is like really smooth and not breaking.
And most people will do that, right?
A lot of people do that, but I find it very unnecessary because some of the most celebrated vocal moments are breaks. Like, loving you. Like people love that when Whitney Houston does that. And then Beyonce like, hello. And Cranberry, is it called Cranberries or the singer just died recently? Zombie, like zombie, oh, like people love those. Like as long as you have control before and after the break, no one cares about the break sound. So a lot of people have this like bad habit of thinking like, oh, break means I'm messing up. No, if you have poor pitch before and after the break, that is what people will perceive as like, oops, you messed up. Okay, I'm not answering that right now.
I got a question.
Yes.
So Chris Cornell, I was watching an interview he did, and he was giving advice on what singers can do to improve their voice. And he said that just go ahead and like listen to yourself, record yourself, and listen to yourself over and over and over again. And I don't know if he was talking about using headphones, but you have techniques on self-listening.
Yeah, do it with a grain of salt. Because either you don't like hear everything that's there. Cause some people it can be like a little bit egocentric or not egocentric, egotistical. And they're kind of like, oh, I never do anything wrong. And they kind of hear themselves through like rose-colored headphones. Oh, look at that. I'm good. I should write up book. Or they're the opposite. They're like me. They like hate every single noise that they make. Like, I can't stand the sound of my breathing. Like I'll listen to myself, oh, I hate that.
Like, did my nose just make a sound?
Like I know. How dare I make noise in this universe? How dare I disturb air particles with my throat?
I blame that on the current engineering state because everything is so perfect and flawless and loud decibels now that we don't like the natural voice. But then the most iconic songs that were ever out there, them people were singing they had to pay their rent, okay?
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? They were going to sing it right and get it right. There was no auto-tune or melodyne or anything like that.
Well, in case there's sometimes like putting a little filter on your voice or something can help, get more creative sometimes.
Well, yeah, I just mean when it gets to a point where they're taking people who really aren't singers and they're polishing up so much that their notes are perfectly timed and on point. Because with Melodyne, you can make that person sound like Luther Vandross, and it sounds like it's actually coming from them. But that just kind of makes the singers who are more organic, people start to think that sounds bad when that's not actually bad. You know what I mean? And it's kind of.
Do you ever like just for purposes of exploring your voice though? You ever put an effect on there just to like play with it?
Oh yeah.
To hear what your voice sounds like with the effect on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my daughter, she was just playing one of her recordings that she did for me today, and because of the tone of her voice, that new auto-tune sound, she already has that maybe nasality.
Yeah.
So when you put that on top of the auto-tune on top of that, she just sounds like she can't sing. I'm like, tell the engineer to take that off of there. Don't do it. Don't.
Yeah.
Like, just please.
Yeah, some people do that. Some people will retouch. Even live vocals will get like retouched. And even some like the greatest, they'll have their voices retouched. Yeah, they'll have it retouched live, or they'll have like backing vocals of themselves singing the note to like double it just in case they mess it up live.
It'll just make you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Something he just said. The King's Speech did that. The movie The King's Speech. Y'all see that?
Oh yeah.
No, I
didn't headphones on because he was stuttering and he was supposed to be the king. You know?
Oh wow.
And he was stuttering real bad, so he put the headphones on and told him to speak. He was speaking real good with the headphones on, the music playing. When he took it off, he started stuttering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually is a pinning in reality. So like Scinguistics, saying science linguistics, we like to talk about like voice from scientific and medical and clinical angles as well. Speaking of which, we're planning a field trip to GBMC out in Towson to get vocal cord stroboscopy to see what a little bit more about what is entailed in a stroboscopy. Let me pull up this really good one.
Here we go. G'day, my name's Mel Webb, and we're going through my nose and into my throat to look at my vocal folds with the nasal laryngoscope, which has a strobe so you can see the cycle of the vibrations. We're at the Melbourne Voice Analysis Clinic with Deb Filand and Malcolm Baxter, and here we go through the snot bubble and into the back of my throat. Okay, at the bottom of the picture we have the back of my tongue, so straight down out of the frame would be into my mouth. Through the middle of the picture we can see the little V that's opening and closing, that's the vocal folds, and looking through that is down into my lungs. Below that in the picture, the big light-coloured blobby thing is called the epiglottis, and that covers it all up when you swallow. Alrighty, let's go.
Remember the sound? That's the epiglottis bending over.
Yodeling and all sorts of other fun vocal stuff. We'll start on the outside of my face. So here we go. I'm going to go for a little journey through all the things in your face that can flap. So I'm going to start with my lips. So we can see that on the outside camera, which is
talking.
So I'm going to start with going.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of it's live and how much of it's pre-recorded.
Then I'm going to put my voice in.
But yeah, that's probably him narrating.
So they have a screen there, I think, where everybody can just.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you can do the same thing on raspberry, but it's a bit uglier. So we won't concentrate on that because it's awful. But next, you can do the tip of your tongue. So when you say arrivederci, but if I then do it without my voice, and then
you are right, Krampus. He is the king of tremolo.
So that's buzzing my tongue an octave below what I'm singing. Next thing, we've got the sides of your tongue. You can do that. Which
So
of course you don't get much action out of your vocal cords when you're doing that because you're just blowing. Well, you can sing at the same time. But it's not very pretty, so let's not concentrate on that.
We skip ahead to some of the other stuff.
Let's go to the ukulele because that's more fun. So,
was it showing the video? Come on. Oh no! Oopsie. Where'd it go? Let's skip ahead to something like the.
That's caveman voice.
Oh, never mind. Y'all getting some.
So let's go from my chest to my falsetto.
Thanks.
If we do it up a bit higher, I should be able to get from my chest to my falsetto and to my head voice.
Ignore the chest to head. Look at the chest to falsetto.
Oh my goodness.
You should like pop apart suddenly.
Yeah.
That popping apart suddenly is the yodel. It's like popping a balloon almost.
That is crazy.
You like touching.
See, yeah,
it's pretty much like sideways.
I'm bringing the vocal.
Okay. I wonder how he does that. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, stuttering can be improved by like singing instead of talking, and that's actually a form of speech therapy that a lot of people use. And they had one on Sunday's Best, which is like a gospel version of American Idol. They have one on American Idol itself. I think one other show, maybe America's Got Talent, where people stuttered in real life, but then when they went to go sing, because you use different areas of your brain to sing than you do to talk, they sort of bypass the areas of their brain affected by the stuttering. So yeah, that's an actual therapy that some SLPs, speech language pathologists, will use to help people stop stuttering. In fact, it's probably like actually kind of scandalous with the American Idol one because people think that he like played up his stutter in order to get along. Because like if he can get rid of it while he sings, there's a possibility they can get rid of it while he talks. But just like thinking of talking and singing, they use it for stroke recovery victims as well. It's a really good video of it, but I can't find that. Yes, Aaron Neville is the king of tremolo. Okay, can you tell me a bit about the singer sounds created by? Okay, so Chloe asks about bringing M1 higher without belting. So bringing M1, which is this sound I'm talking with right now, as you slide it up, it naturally comes into belt. So like it naturally starts to be really loud and belty unless I break. So and like I break, and it doesn't have to become as loud. So if I slide and M1 the entire time, it's going to become a belt. It's basically musical shouting. To avoid doing that prematurely, you can bring it higher without belting. Ask Krampus. Chloe, ask Krampus for the drill. I don't know if you shouted. I don't think you shouted out my lesson with Krampus. Ask Krampus. I just gave him the drill. Some people that like want to use their regular talking voice, that sound, that richer sound, as they get higher, but they don't necessarily want it to be loud. There's sort of a way to leverage that. And fake belt, I don't think it's the first thing that you should use to try to leverage that. So
vocal teacher you were speaking of, the one Carl?
No, it was the guy from Soundgarden. He died, and I was watching some video on it. Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell. That sounds. I know.
Great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I thought it was the guy like with his long. Like,
he does have long hair. Yeah, it's like a. Yeah, he died.
I think.
I had the wrong person.
I think.
Audio Slave, and Soundgarden. Yeah.
All I know by them, I think, is Black Hole Sun, and I love that. So I'll talk a bit about this.
Start with the world's #1 bourbon, mixed with an.
Oh my god, annoying.
The sky looks dead. Call my name through the pain and doubt. Hear you scream again.
This is a very high close cushion sound. We're talking about the cushions. So his vocal folds are very tight on each other, so it's this heavy buzzy sound.
A lot of
so focused raspy.
Runs metal have that quick to the rasp.
Yeah, so it's supposed to like that heavy sound comes from like the vocal folds being tighter on each other while they're vibrating, and it makes this like buzzy sound that can be interpreted as raspiness.
I would love to know what you think about the new trend that's out now.
Oh god,
I don't want to mess with it too much, but it's pretty fascinating how people are singing 2 notes at once, splitting the vocal cord. That's all the rage now.
Oh, 2 notes, like the 2 notes.
Hathaway.
Yeah. Okay, so I have several theories about how that's done. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about polyphonic. Diplophonia. Diplophonia when it's 2 notes. Polyphonics, and there's overtone. There's like a whole. I could probably speak about this for another hour if you want me to. There's a great podcast that I collaborate with called Vocal Logical, and you'll want to, or if you take down my info, do I have one of my cards? Yes. Also, no, this one's gnarly. Let me find one that isn't as gnarly. Right before I go, and I'll give y'all one of my.
My husband has the other one.
Okay. Yeah, because I got more in my room. I just don't want to like get up and leave y'all. Before the curse splits in the lobby. Oh my god. Okay, how important is the soft palate lifting and singing? I'm just going to answer this question while she gets that out. How important is the soft palate lifting and singing? How do you practice and build up muscles so you can do it easier onwards? The soft palate is not important to lift at all. It depends on what color you kind of want. In fact, I think a lot of people struggle with lifting it prematurely, and it gives them this very like classical sound. Like when they go high, like, as opposed to like, I want to sound more modern. So I need like nasality to help me have that more modern sound. So if you want modernness, I would say you want to keep your soft palate lowered. So no, I don't think lifting soft palate is important. And if you really need to lift your soft palate, most people tend to do it when you go higher anyways. It's a natural reflex. I'm glad. Okay, so what were we talking about? Polyphonics. There is a person that is better at it, I believe, than Layla Hathaway.
Really?
Yes. Let me play.
It's kind of like eerie to me. Like it's fascinating. It's kind of like I don't even know how to put it. It's just like what? And if you do that too much, like what does it really do?
Thing I do with my voice.
You'll be fine. Layla doesn't do it a lot, not because she thinks it ruined her voice, but she's literally said, "I don't do it too much because then y'all won't think it's special." Okay, so y'all probably haven't heard the Layla Hathaway thing. So let's play the Layla Hathaway thing first. Layla Hathaway. Just so you let me pull it up so y'all can see the screen.
They have Range has it on their page, I think.
I like the original too. I didn't realize it was original outside of the.
Did you do that? No. Like singing 2 notes out of one.
Oh, speak.
There it is.
She's really good. That was a soprano high C. That's a high C, I think. Soprano, let's see. There we go. There's better lower.
Yeah.
I love, because she creates a better chord. I can kind of do it, but my version, I don't think it's quite as good.
Like the Buddhists do it. Right?
I did hear about that.
Okay,
like
that's different. That is overtone, and that's like two ventos. Sings with, I can't do it that super well, but you hear like the overtone that's created by my mouth as opposed to like just the humming song.
Just like some of those.
It's almost nasally.
Because it's nasal airflow. Do you hear the higher overtone that's created when I do that? I can hear it, but can y'all?
Yeah. Okay,
because I'm not super good at it. So that's different than what Layla Hathaway is doing, which doesn't require 100% nasal airflow, which is like, so that's blowing so that the true vocal folds are apart and the false vocal folds come together and they all vibrate at the same time. I think that's what she's doing. So the closest I can get is, but she is a beast at it, and I think there's like a whole other.
Hathaway's kid. Of course, really hard to beast. Like she had no choice.
This one person singing.
That's like 3 or 4 voices. It's almost like chorus.
Yeah. So that's just one person, one voice. Let's see about questions. It should not. What is? No, it should not. No, it should not. What? We need a diplophonium module. How do you keep your soft palate down then? No, okay, no, Roger, you're not being annoying. It's just the conception that your soft palate always has to be raised. Like there's a lot of conceptions of voice, of what you are supposed to do with your voice that come from classical. Like men can't sing high notes, women can't sing low notes. There's plenty of people that prove both of those wrong. Mariah Carey can hit bass range notes like as quiet as it's kept, and I can hit Mariah Carey range notes. So there's like nothing about the way that you're born that inherently you're born with like a vocal defect that stops you from hitting whatever notes it is that you want to. And classical is really like super quasi-scientific about like, well, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and you can't do this, it'll hurt your voice. There's people with like decades-long careers doing things that classical says is dangerous. There's like screamo musicians that last for decades. There's like heavy metal singers that last for decades. There's like belters like Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson that last for decades. So there's more to the voice than these people will allow. And in this case, I think their stance on lifting soft palates like something that you have to do or else it's wrong when you get higher. You really need to figure out like what you like out of nasality and where you want your soft palate to be stylistically. Yeah, there also, yes, Nick, that's true. And that in the context of speaking, we have one of the ways you can test whether or not you're being 100% hyponasal, which means like no nasal airflow, is like you pitch your nose and you try to say mom or non, and you'll be like mom, non, non, mom, non. It'll be like either Bob or Dodd because you can't say M or N without being nasal, but you also know to say like, because M becomes a B when you don't put nasalents on it. So if I say like mom, 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 doesn't it say like, it sounds something like Bob? Yeah, as opposed to mom. So I need nasal airflow to say M, but I need to take away some of that nasal airflow to say B. So in the course of just using language, your soft palate is not going to, which controls nasal airflow, is not going to be just in one particular space. Yeah. Oh my God, Cramps, I hate you. Sorry. So I'm also talking, if you didn't already know, I'm talking with people like online as well. A lot of people are listening in online. We have people live here and in person. Do y'all have any more vocal questions? Like, hit me. I love answering these questions. I'm a complete and utter geek for this stuff. If you have even questions about your voice personally.
I guess some more info about the class. We can't get to head out here, but you guys have it every week or?
Yeah, I'm doing this every week, and eventually once we get enough people coming, I'm going to alternate and probably do like once a month. I'll do a discount like intro session where I give a full actual lesson on voice, and it'll probably be like $10 or whatever. Once we get enough people to, I think whoever's phone that is, someone's calling, is that you? That will be something that probably will start a month after this. And for checkups on your voice, like to get it looked at under the stroboscope, that'll be happening every last Tuesday, hopefully, if we can start getting people rounded up for that.
You can actually go in and have your own.
Yes, yeah, you can have yours looked at. Somewhere out there is a tape of my voice, but I lost it. I think I might put it in storage. But yeah, I have mine looked at. It's a weird process, but it's not painful.
Are you online then every week?
Yes, I'm online every week. My YouTube, everything is like crammed voice lessons. That'll say on the, you got a card?
Yeah, I got one.
And y'all two are together?
Yep.
Okay, so that will help you find any of my social media, just like Facebook, cram voice lessons, or Reddit, cram voice lessons. And they'll, I mean, the other thing is like Scinguistics. It's like my teaching business, I call that cram voice lessons, but my curriculum, like my study of voice, I call Scinguistics, singing science and linguistics. And those things can combine to help give you like a very like objective answer to all your questions about voice. A lot of classical people be like, oh, Chris Cornell didn't know what he was doing. He probably ruined his voice. Like, it's, they don't want to address the fact that they just don't understand, because learning opera won't teach you how to do like Soundgarden vocals. It won't teach you how to do Nirvana vocals. It won't teach you how to do Green Day. It won't teach you how to do Patti LaBelle. It won't teach you how to do all those things. So rather than just admit we don't know, they say it's dangerous. And there's like all kinds of fun vocal stuff you can learn about that actually helps you with the stuff you want to sing. There's no reason like you should learn opera to sing anything else. Do you have any more vocal questions? Feel free to ask.
I can sit here all night, but just the last one, since we did that vocal, was it
polyphonics? Depends on what exactly you're doing.
How about the whistle, as they call it? The Mariah Carey.
Oh, the whistle register. It's hard to break down like how it happens, because the inside of larynx constricts so much when people do with M3 or whistle register that you don't have as much ability to see into what the vocal cords are actually doing. But what we speculate is happening is normally most of your vocal folds vibrate, but in M3 or whistle register, only a very little amount of them vibrate. And whistle register is this thing that's treated as like this super magical, only the blessed people have had, like, are able to do it. But you all have heard me do whistle register multiple times. I have a tick that when I laugh or like I express a sudden reaction of, that's funny, like, I gotcha. Like, my reaction to that is like a shriek that is in M3. So like if somebody says like, no. M3 is beyond head. Yeah, it's beyond. Yeah, M3 is separate from head. So I can show you the difference between M3 and head, which is M2, later on. And this kind of stuff you want to learn about all these differentiations, I would definitely recommend coming to the intro session, because I go over all those things in like.
What is that?
I'll announce when I'm doing one. It'll be like one of the Fridays. I'll do an intro session instead of just doing it regular open hours. But once I get people coming through, I'll see like what day people want to have it, and I'll try to like schedule like 1 or 2 a month. So M3 or whistle, a lot of people treat it as this thing that's like only the gods, but I can't like
consistent with it.
Yeah,
I have to be like saying a lot, and then
it's very.
But one thing that I was told that made it a little easier is when you're taking your breath in, you kind of cut it off, almost as if you're and then you let it
like
out.
that.
Like if you're breathing in and you're letting the note out, you kind of like stifle the air, and
like
then
that.
it just comes out.
Like you breathe in and close the vocal cords like that. Yeah, because you want your vocal folds tight on each other, because it's almost like squeezing the air through this small hole. If you close them tight, you can make that small hole.
Can I get an example?
Oh, I probably can't do it right now. Like it's going to.
I'm gonna give an example in a second.
I can try it. But
I'm gonna give a sample. I'm gonna give a sample in a second. But I just want to talk about it actually before like doing it. Be like, oh, look at my whistle register, because a lot of people. I can't remember like a time that I did it when. But I think you were like making a joke with your husband. I can't remember what you said.
Oh, about if I was trying to be Beyonce, you'd have to carry me out on the gurney and have a Gatorade IV.
Oh yeah. So when you said that, I probably did that. Like I made that noise. That's whistle register. So like people like, oh my God, you can do this. No, you can't. It's like I've been doing it all night because I'm like instead of laughing. So the only difference, like you just take that and you doll it up and like do a melody with it, do a vibrato with it. So like it's like oh, crap. Yeah. I'm a little dry. I need something to drink real quick. Probably still won't save me, but
yeah, if I try to
and just put a vibrato on it. Then okay, now it's a whistle note. And what's it? Inhale. Oh yeah. I'm not sure how useful it is either. Some people find it, especially for whatever reason, I find guys tend to have an easier time with inhale whistling. So what I'm doing is an exhale or a pulmonic egressive whistle. I'm pushing air out as I whistle. So that's I'm pushing air out. But if I do the inverse, I can suck air in and make sort of like a pterodactyl whistle. Like a crap, I'm really bad at it. I can't do it. I'm too dry. I'm too dry to do it right now. But yeah. But so this is me doing like a note on an inhale. But I can't do an inhale whistle right now because I'm actually not that good at inhale whistling. So some people can inhale and make a note, and that note ends up being higher than what they can do when they're not inhaling. So
cool stuff.
Let your air out.
I mean, people don't normally talk like this, but you can if you want to. Like, but yeah, nobody normally inhales, sings. But if you really could, if you control it well enough. I had this like jazz band that I used to mess around with a couple years ago, and I was always like, because I like to experiment with my voice, so I'd always be doing all these extra weird tricks. Like I'd be doing the and like I've just been doing all kinds of extra stuff with my voice. And like, stop being extra, just sing normally. And then I forgot that they said that. So I was like, I still experimenting a little bit. But I said, oh, well, haven't I tried yet? I'm gonna sing while inhaling. So what was the song? I think it was a jazz standard. So I'll just sing like fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. So like I did like an inhale, but I was way better doing inhale back then. So I don't think anybody could tell me that's supposed to. It's like, yeah, finally you sang it normal. Yeah, because like you have to inhale and like you have to realize I need to breathe out to restart, not to breathe in. Yeah, like that. So yeah, I feel like you could create like a perpetual singing if like, you'll never have to take a breath if you're like, fly me through the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
What's the name of this? Like M0 or M-1 for the Inspector Gadget?
That's not a full mechanism because mechanisms refer the M's. That's a great ass question. Sorry. I cursed a lot. That is a really good question. So that actually isn't really denoted with a mechanism. If you look at the video that I was showing you before and send me an email, I can email you the link to that video. He does that, and that's when you use the false vocal folds to move more instead of the actual vocal folds. So mechanisms like M1, M2, M3, and M0, which is this. So this kind of like low fry thing. That's M0. So I am super tired right now. Sorry, like I had really bad allergies, so I took like a whole bunch of antihistamines. They dried me out. I was aware that y'all would be working me to my final thread of my
like a growl and death metal or something like.
Oh, there's so you can do that, but usually people do this, which uses more of the actual vocal folds.
That guy is like he's curling something over inside there and doing like
this. Yeah. So that's using like you cover with the epiglottis, like the thing that keeps you from choking a little bit, and you use the false vocal folds in the epiglottis to vibrate instead of your actual vocal folds. So that's like asking like what mechanism, which M is breathing. So like breathing doesn't have an M because you're not using your vocal folds to breathe. So similarly, the sound doesn't have a mechanism because you don't really use your vocal folds in it as much. Using like other things that can vibrate in your throat to vibrate instead of your vocal folds. So like
a lot of things that can vibrate, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Avoiding the temptation to make a vibrator joke, but the Inspector Gadget voice is that. But death metal, uses the actual vocal folds more, but it uses a similar, like it's like making the meat in the middle. A lot of people think like, oh, death metal growls are super low pitch, and they can be low pitch, but they don't necessarily have to be. Like that's not necessarily like what pitch is that? This. Come on, give me a note. I'm getting like notes. That's a B3, so that's not particularly low pitch. If I take away all the distortion, the note that I'm hitting with my actual vocal folds. This. So so those aren't necessarily low notes. That's just me making like a big mouth shape, which makes me sound more masculine and low, dropping my larynx like we talked about before, and combining that with like blowing on my false folds really hard. And blowing on your false folds, like to make them vibrate, is something that is not really hard to do. I'll give you this fun tip that I'll give y'all for free because I really appreciate y'all coming out. An easy way to get your false folds to vibrate without making it as painful as it sounds to do is the trick that I call the Becky. So the Becky. So like if you ever like watch a teen drama or sitcom or whatever, there's always that really like annoying Becky or Brittany or Buffy or Margaret or Haley that's like, but mom, like that, like if you blow out while you're doing it, mom, like and do that, and then you blow out like you're sighing and you're exasperated, like, mom, and like you breathe out while you're doing it. It really helps like breath to move your false folds, which is like kind of squeezing them to get a distortion out of them. So if you like, you can eventually turn that into like this. Because you can vibrate, you can vibrate your false folds without it hurting as much. A lot of people like roll your eyes like I swear to God, like it works wonders.
I think I'll do that every time somebody gets on my nerves from now on. Death metal thing.
Yeah, because it's the same essential vocal activity. It's something that. Yeah, because like you should be able to do that. Like each one of you want to try the Becky. Just like give me. You want to try it? Yeah. And you can do that like all day. It doesn't hurt because you're blowing it. You run out of air pretty quickly because you have to blow pretty hard. But it's easier to do that in terms of it doesn't like mess up your vocal folds as much because you're gonna and try to do that. That's a little bit of a harder one to do. So before doing like things like this, you'll want to work with to have that basic sound down and to know that you can do it just by achieving a certain air pressure, not by squeezing, because the body's instinct is like sometimes to squeeze when you want those things to vibrate, and that can mess with your vocal folds and give you a little bit of that inflammation.
And what was your name again?
Charles.
Charles.
Nice to meet y'all. John.
Tracy.
Nice to meet you. Sheldon. And
awesome.
Latoya.
Everybody called me Toy.
Yeah, I'll call you Toy if that's what you want. But I won't play with you.
That was amazing. I'm gonna refer friends.
Please do. Every Friday.
Yeah, I have some people that might. Oh, that was cool, man.
I might start singing.
Yeah.
I hate you, Krampus.
Auditory, my learning style.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Rich to get me.
Oh no, you are fine here. Do you want anything to drink besides water? Okay. If you nice meeting you. Tell a friend. Look me up because I got plenty more where this came from.
You gonna be sick of looking at me.
See how I go. I actually do whistle way better. Whistle and runs. Like when somebody says something like a quick joke, I'm like, and like that quick reaction, I whistle way more strongly than I do when I like try to go like.
When I try to think
See how scratchy and like not good that was. It was like when you
and you know what I think is so difficult, like and it's just like beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Like in the Middle East, like how they oh my gosh, I wish I could like master that.
Okay.
To me, that's like more than yodeling. Like I would look. Oh.
Yeah, and in India as well, they have like like that kind of.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Like the voice is just
F6. Wait, what? I don't understand. What about F6? Okay, I don't understand. Okay, I guess last thing I'll go over here with y'all on YouTube before I end this session. Get your final last minute ask questions in. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, there's actually on my server. I have a Patreon, so like people subscribe to my voice information, and one of the services I offer is like breaking down people's runs, riffs, so you can like take out the instrument and figure them out part by part. Let me find Asala's. Asala, ow, ow, ow. Where? In riff. I'm gonna find this manually. This is really annoying. It's a good Sarah Vaughan one in here. God, people need to actually do these. So this is one that's not as intense.
وهتبتدي الحكايات معانك قالت لي حاجات وهو بان عليك علامات.
Yeah, so I put out all the notes because these can be broken down into note patterns. So that's and those are the notes that the run consists of. So yeah, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good initial attempt.
Because my vibrato is not super fast.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's easier. So, like runs are easier when you
have a fast vibrato. Yeah, exactly, because it's the same machinery. So you want your pitch to be able to change very quickly. You were like one of the few people that's pointed that out without me like making that connection for them. That
like one person, they told me you go.
Yeah, and I find,
and then you just kind of like
oh, for doing runs,
like you just speed your vibrato.
Yeah, something that I call like roulades to train doing vibratos. Where is Asala? Let me get over here.
Yeah, I would say I'm more of like that Martha Wash disco queen kind of person. That's
I am on a Martha Wash kick right now.
And Lisa Fisher. How can I?
Yes.
Is the pain when I know you're coming back again?
Oh God, I need you in my life.
Yeah, I told my husband, I'm like, are you mad because you married a drag queen? Yeah. I tell him that all the time, and he's like, just take your fan out.
Right. Everybody's gotta have a fan.
Yeah, right. Like I told him when I was at the Grand Central the other night for karaoke.
Yeah.
They were like, it's drag karaoke on Tuesdays. I'm like, why am I here tonight? I'm like, can I just?
Yeah, there is no reason why women can't do drag. Okay, but let me show you the thing. This is my most recent post on my Insta.
You need to stop. I'm done with you. You gotta go. Oh my
But just to prove to you that I'm really feeling Martha Wash right now. Like I want. Do you listen to Zealy Banks at all? Not like that. Not like that. She has this song that I want to mash up with everybody. Because I like this. I like the idea because like everybody's kind of like when you listen to the lyrics, it's kind of like a sad song. I love sad dance music, so like I want to do like a cover of two songs. I feel like I can weave into like a really sad dance music anthem. Oh, I love getting turned on depression.
I make like electronic like house music. Like I produce it.
We like. I think we got to collab.
Let people listen to my stuff, but I will play it for you. But I don't have I mean, do you have like a speaker? Because the phone ain't gonna do it justice.
I feel like we might. I need to figure that out. I'll ask him if he knows. Okay, no more questions. No more questions from y'all.
On Tuesday, I joined the karaoke league here, the Baltimore Karaoke League, And
this is reading. There's an article about the Baltimore Karaoke League.
Yeah, I was in it. And our team went to the finals, and then I opened the show and I hit them with some Bodyguard, and people were like,
"Oh yes!"
Yeah, I did. I Have Nothing. Put into the song.
Oh yes. Yes.
And
That is a
of course,
nice.
I had to be like, "Don't make me."
Yeah. Yes, you got it. You really got it. Yeah, there's nothing like I have a voice where like you don't have to fix stuff. It's only talking about even more potentials. Let me play you like this really. Okay, here. No, that's not. Oh, this is a pretty good one too. This is another riff that I have broken down on my server. Yeah, that's pretty good. You have to kind of like break on the first.
And if you like totally just let the throat muscles go, it's almost like the note floats over the air.
Yeah. You have to really like release.
See, when you start to tense up, you can't.
And this is one of my favorite ones.
Oh my gosh, I can't take it. You sing in Spanish too?
Yes. Actually, I have a song with my band. My band, like, we barely have any songs in English. All our songs are different languages. And we have a song I want to do is like an Argentinian flamenco fusion. That's in Spanish. If I had to pick a favorite song, probably
stuff like La Lupe, Celia Cruz.
Nice.
India.
Does anybody have?
So my husband, he's very scientific and everything as well, just about life in general. His father was a chemist or something. Yeah, but I said, why is it you think like you get these whole families like the Barges, Jackson?
Yes.
And I said, is it because their mother was like mine and it was just kind of like, say that no right? He's like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So what it really is the genetic shape that runs in the family of how your ear, nose, throat, everything else is shaped. Because like outwardly, families, they share hair colors, they share eye colors, they have certain traits. Like some families, everybody look alike, like inbred or something. They look alike. But he said that's probably what's going on the inside, where you find like my mother's whole family, everybody can sing. Like all generations, 5th, 8th cousins, people I ain't even met, all of them can sing.
Yeah.
And he said it's probably, like people can learn to sing, but he said that's like in some ways you might be genetically predisposed because of the way you're made inside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like all my kids have perfect pitch.
Yeah, I think the same thing like with the auditory abilities. I think some of that you can have a head start with genetics.
Yeah, like a head start, but you're definitely true about that because I have a brother. I don't know what happened. I think he's adopted. He looks and he can't sing, but he's a musician, so he can stay in the game.
We won't disown him. He can still come.
Yeah, he fits a plate.
I guess. Yeah, you still come to cookout. Maybe every other cookout.
Right.
Okay. Any exercises? Sorry, I'm getting one more question on this. Any exercise you recommend for just building the fundamental use of the voice? The only 2 exercises I'd say do that all the time, regardless. They're just good. Is you have what I call the pendulum siren, and that's good for warming up access and ease of use of your different range. So it's like what you were talking about. Woo! Except the way I do it is like I slide from like comfortable bottom to comfortable top, and just like keep moving my comfort zone out further as I do it. So it's like it swings more and more as I widen the sorry, I'm like so hypernasal right now. But like like you slide like more and more each time. And that can help your range be comfortable. So that's one size fits all. The other one is learning to yawn on command. Yawning is really good. It's a good tool to reset your voice. And like having done that for over the years for so many different students, like I can't, like someone can say the word yawn and I want to yawn. Because it's good to be like hyper-reducible with me yawning. It's good for training so many different things. And it's also good to reset when you have tension. You feel like you're squeezing your vocal folds together. Oh, you gotta head out. Okay, let me close down this. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not supposed to be off live. The bed's supposed to be off live. Okay, I will see y'all next time, 7:30. Come through next week. It's gonna be lit.